Alright folks, welcome back. I hope you guys are staying safe from the coronavirus. So stay safe, wash your hands, wash your face, don't touch your face, all the good stuff. But there's a new patch on the common test server, patch 1.9, that contains the tech tree changes from the sandbox server. So it's a bunch of health buff and ammo buff for lower tiers, collector vehicles, but it's not as problematic as I first thought from the sandbox server, so it's all good. But as always, with every new patch, there are new hidden vehicles added to the main directory files, but they are not available for the public yet. So let's do what we usually do. Let's take a sneak peek. Now before we start, all the vehicles are subject to change. They're still hidden for a reason, so they might tweak the balance and nerf it or buff it, whatever, but it's a sneak peek. So I'll put the timestamp to all the vehicles down below, but this time around there are 4 tanks, so we'll get to the most interesting tank right off the bat. It is the Concept 1B, a tier 9 American heavy with a very futuristic turret look. So the hull kind of looks like a mishmash of a leopard hull somewhat, and a very well sloped frontal turret ring. So that's a driver hatch. I think that's a commander hatch. That's a gunner hatch, but it's very futuristic. It's likely a rank battle reward for the upcoming season. So this season we have the Kampfpanzer 50T, which you already got over or reviewed, but there are 3 vehicles for the next upcoming rank battle season, and that is likely this vehicle, the STRV-K, which is a fusion of a Centurion turret with the Kranwagen's hull. For some reason, it's not that exciting compared to this thing, and the Object 752, which is basically a Object 907 with an autoloader as a heavy. So we already reviewed that vehicle, but yeah, we'll review the other 2 choices for this video. So it's very futuristic. It's a very small turret silhouette, so don't even think about penetrating the turret front. And hull armor is somewhat decently sloped, as well as the lower plate, so it's a small target. It's a heavy, so it's like a chieftain at tier 9. Oh my lord. So from the 1960s to the 1970s, a new program to develop a main battle tank, various designs considered. It was a concept with a low turret and manual loading of 110mm rifle gun with high ballistics. No metal prototypes were produced. So 110mm, interesting. It doesn't tell me on the actual preview screen of the caliber. I have it with the normal garage selection, so they need to mod that in, but all the modders are working on it. So yeah, it's 900 horsepower engine. So we'll go through all the stats, but it has a crew of 4, fits the T110E5, fits the M103. Does it fit the M103? I don't. Nope, M103 has 2 rotors. Interesting. Also, it also fits the newly introduced T54E1. It was a heavy, but it was a medium. Now it's a heavy because reasons. It also fits the T110E5 and the T57 heavy, so you still have crews for it, but it's a very small silhouetted tank, and it's about the same size or length as a AE Phase 1. Slightly shorter in terms of height, but it's a lot smaller than the T57 heavy. It's slightly smaller than a AE Phase 1. So we'll do the quick preview, but it's ghetto. I cannot just directly compare the 2 silhouettes, but as you can see, it's slightly shorter in terms of height than the AE Phase 1. So let's go through all the stats. But it has a 110mm, 258mm of pen, 400 alpha, so it's like a 120, but it's slightly smaller in terms of caliber, even though it doesn't matter that much in terms of overmatching armor. So you still pen against stuff like 35 millimeters plus. But then again, 120 also has difficulty penetrating highly sloped 40 millimeters of armor, so you don't overmatch. Reloads every 10.55 seconds, and DPM is not bad. 2,276 for a tier 9 heavy. That is average-ish. It's actually decent when you consider the fact that it has 10 degrees of gun depression and a very small turret silhouette. Aim time is okay, 2.2 seconds, not bad. 0.36 accuracy. With a good crew, you might get to like 0.35 or 0.34 with vertical stabilizer or all the good stuff, but not bad too. So it has very quick turret traverse speed, about 33.4. So it's like a medium heavy tank, and that's scary. Here is the armor profile. 1800 hit points, not bad. It's a tier 9 heavy, so not expecting a lot. But here's the fun part. The armor profile. So 130 for the hull front, sloped. Directly frontal hits are about 190-ish millimeters effective to 180. Driver hatch is about 175. If you angle this while hull down, it will give you about 215-ish to 220-ish. So hull down like this, and 220-ish, 230-ish. So it's still decent, but it's like the AE Phase 1. Hull armor is not as crazy as something like a Conqueror or Russian tanks, but lower plate is about 230. It's a lot better protected than the upper plate because of the sloping, so, and the direction of the shot incoming. So don't shoot the lower plate, just shoot the upper plate and you'll pin. But the fun thing is, this is a small turret. This is a well protected turret. It's a 250mm front, auto bounce zones, 130 for the upper parts of the turret or turret roof. You might be able to pin the commander periscopes, but that is very small target. I don't think that will hit and pin and collect as actual damage. It just count as damaging the periscope and just takes like 5 seconds to repair it. But turret ring is 100mm slope backwards and rounded. Auto bounce basically. You might be able to jam a shot into the driver hatch on top. That's only 25mm, but depending on your shot characteristics. So mantlet is strong, don't even think about it. It's a small target. There's no sponsons to the sides, so no weak spot on the turret whatsoever. And if this thing is hauled down with 10 degrees of gun depression, yeah, no. Also, what's fun, that's just the frontal part of this tank. What's fun is the side armor is 120, which is greatly more than the average 70-ish on American tanks or British tanks. You can actually side scrape with this thing. Jesus. And side scraping is relatively easy with this thing because of the thick side armor, 120. You also have tracks to help buffer up the space armor values. So, oof. Is that space armor for the upper parts of the side skirts? No, but it is still 70mm at a well sloped angle, so don't even think about it. Yeah, you can side scrape. There are a few small slivers of penetrable spots, but don't even think about it. It's very hard to hit. And likely the ammo rack is right here, so don't over side scrape, but it's still very good to side scrape. Very good. And while side scraping, you increase the effective angles of the upper plate and lower plate, so technically you side scrape with this thing. And you can hold down. But yeah, it's American heavy for some reason, and you can do all these stuff while, here's the fun kicker. Here is the greatest fun kicker out of all of these. This tank has 20 horsepower per ton ratio, 20.64. Its top speed is 45 kilometers per hour, reverse of 18, hull traverse like a medium. Weighs about 44 tons ish. What? It has armor, it has a strong turret front, DPM is not bad, It's fast. It's a heavy. View range is also not bad for heavy, 400 meters. That's very good. Concealment, it's a heavy tank, so whatever, but oh my lord. This is basically a chieftain at tier 9. It's even, I think it's faster than chieftain because of the 20 horsepower per ton ratio and 45 kilometers per hour top speed. That is blistering fast. That is like a T1 T10 heavy tank, but T10 heavy tank has only about 15-ish horsepower per ton ratio. I need to see, but holy crap, this thing is fast. If you ever played the Chrysler K, that thing revs up. That thing has about 20 horsepower per ton ratio. The only thing limiting that tank is the top speed of 35. This thing has 45 kilometers per hour. So let's see how good the T10 heavy tank. It's only 15 on the T10, but T10 could go up to 50 kilometers per hour. So it doesn't rev up as fast for the T10, but the T10 goes faster in terms of a straight line while revving down the engine. But this thing has 20 horsepower per ton ratio and 45 kilometers per hour top speed with 120 millimeters of side armor and a strong turret front. Lower plate is also pretty decent. What's the weakness of this thing? Gun's also not bad. It's a well-performing, decent penetration gun. Let's see what the gold shell is, just because people will spam it. It's 100 more, 50 more millimeters of pen for the gold shell. Oh my gosh. It's 110, but high explosive in the tank would probably go through a lot of stuff. High explosive is normal high explosive. Alright. This thing is scary. If I would rate this tank, it's probably a 9.5 out of 10. It's way too good. I cannot see the terrain resistance. It's limited by the clickable stuff. So usually when I right click on the tracks, it tells me the terrain resistance since I have a mod for it. But I can show you the terrain resistance for the AE phase 1. It's 1.2, 1.3, and 2.4. So this thing gets bogged down in a swampy area, but I don't have the clickable stuff for the Concept 1B. I tried it. I really did. So you can hear me clicking it, but my god, this thing is scary. It has 120 millimeter side armor. Very good Stronto front armor as well. Upper plate is not as good, but if you give this thing like 150 millimeter upper plate, you're not penetrating this thing whatsoever. And this thing will drive circles around you. This thing will basically out medium tanks. It will still out heavy tanks. The gun's also not bad. It can also spot for itself. It's not blind. This thing is too good. It's like 9.5 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10. No question. 9 at least. But yeah, if you give this thing like a 150 millimeter upper plate, yeah, that's definitely a 10 out of 10. It's so good for its tier. Yeah, Sam, yeah, it's no comparison to a Chieftain. Chieftain has more DPM. Chieftain has better alpha and stuff. Well, Chieftain's at tier 10. This thing is at tier 9. This thing could face a tier 7. You want to fight this thing with a Comet? No! It can basically maneuver just as good as a Comet to counter the Circle Strafe. What the... 9.5 out of 10. Definitely. No question asked. It's not even fair to tier 7s. It's not even fair to tier 8s. And some tier 9s. Not even close. So the only way to kill this thing is artillery. The same way you kill a Chieftain. Artillery. But that's pretty good. That's very good.